The first bite happened in kindergarten, a transgression born from the silence of naptime and the faint scent of paste, forever altering the trajectory of my existence. It wasn't hunger that drove me, but an insatiable desire for control, a desperate attempt to silence the incessant noise that echoed within the confines of my mind. With each subsequent transgression, the hunger grew, twisting and distorting the very essence of my being.
He had been pushing every day, a relentless barrage of elbows and laughter that made my small world tilt precariously on its axis. The sound of his taunts echoed within the confines of my mind, each word a sharp barb that pierced my fragile defenses. When the room finally quieted and the teacher turned away, I saw my opportunity, a chance to silence the cacophony that threatened to consume me entirely.
I leaned over and bit his arm, the sensation both repulsive and strangely intimate, as if a forbidden boundary had been crossed. His scream pierced the silence like a shattered bell, the sound reverberating through the sterile confines of the classroom. The teacher, her face a mask of horror, dragged me into the hall, but the memory of the noise was secondary to the odd, intimate sensation in my mouth. Something wrong becoming real.
It slid down, warm and ordinary as swallowed gum, and a new hunger settled like a stone in the pit of my stomach, a constant reminder of the transgression I had committed. The taste lingered on my tongue, a morbid fascination that both repulsed and enticed me. From that moment forward, I was no longer the same, forever marked by the darkness that had taken root within my soul.
At 19, the stone multiplied, its weight bearing down on me with suffocating force. My father, consumed by grief and alcohol, accused me of stealing the very essence of my mother's life, his words like daggers piercing my heart. I ran, seeking refuge in the solitude of my room, but the decision had already been made, a dark impulse that I could no longer resist. I bit my own leg first, a desperate attempt to understand the darkness that consumed me, to find some semblance of meaning in the chaos that had become my life. Pain came, sharp and clarifying, a fleeting moment of clarity amidst the confusion. The pressure steadied me, grounding me in the present moment as I grappled with the depths of my despair. When I finally stopped, there was more than relief. There was a rhythm that made sense where nothing else did. A twisted sense of order in the chaos. The act of self-harm became a ritual, a perverse form of self-soothing that provided a temporary reprieve from the crushing weight of my existence. Years taught me to look for quiet children and long hours, to identify the vulnerabilities that would allow me to indulge my dark impulses without detection. I became a predator, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. My hunger grew with each transgression, becoming an insatiable craving that consumed my every thought. At 46, my wife left for her mother's with a baby on the kitchen step, abandoning me to the silence that had become my constant companion. The crying scraped like sand against my eardrums, an unbearable reminder of the emptiness that pervaded my life. I tried every trick, a lullaby, walks, a mobile that spun shadows on the ceiling, but the sound gnawed at me relentlessly. I took the child in my lap to hush him, my intentions innocent at first. But the motion of my teeth found a place I did not understand.
The sound of his crying ceased abruptly, replaced by an unsettling silence that filled the room. I spit because habit outruns sense, but the damage had already been done.
I felt both triumph and a hollow like a missing tooth, a perverse satisfaction mingled with a profound sense of loss. I told myself it was only to silence the sound, there was no malice, only an experiment in control. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but it was a necessary delusion to shield me from the truth. The silence that followed was absolute, a deafening void that threatened to consume me entirely. It was a silence filled with guilt, remorse, and the crushing weight of my transgressions. I was left alone with my demons, trapped in a prison of my own making. 73 found me in a cell with a thin window and a roommate who had a voice like a radio, a constant stream of noise that grated on my nerves. The monotony of prison life became a torment, each day a repetition of the last, devoid of meaning or purpose. The guards shifted, lights clicked off at the same time each night, a rigid routine that served only to amplify my sense of confinement. I moved once in a way that made sense, mechanically. A neck, a chest, a calculated act of violence, born from desperation and a deep-seated need for control. The act was swift and efficient, a brutal display of dominance that silenced the incessant noise that had plagued me for so long. By dawn, there was only the space he used to fill, a void where his presence had once been. The cell wrapped around me like a jacket buttoned too tight, suffocating me with its claustrophobic confines. I was alone once more, trapped in a prison of my own making, with only my demons for company. I slept in fits, dreaming of small rooms and mouths full of language I could not translate, fragmented memories of my past haunting my waking hours. The nightmares were relentless, replaying the scenes of violence and transgression that had shaped my life. I was trapped in a perpetual cycle of guilt and remorse, unable to escape the darkness that consumed me. They called last week, the words echoing through the sterile corridors of the prison. Death row moves faster than years when your number is small, a relentless march towards the inevitable. I felt a sense of resignation, a quiet acceptance of my fate. There's a form to fill for a final meal, a ritual, an odd kindness in the face of oblivion. They let you specify, granting a final indulgence before the darkness descends. I've been thinking about that form longer than I have about anything, pondering the significance of my last request. About how desire and hunger can be a map of a life. How the places you bite are the places you taught yourself to be quiet. A twisted cartography of my transgressions. My hunger has been a constant companion, driving me to commit acts of unspeakable horror. Now, as I face my final moments, I must confront the consequences of my insatiable desires. This is a letter written by someone who has been practicing for 70 years, a chronicle of my dark journey. I am not asking for mercy, for I know that I am beyond redemption. I am simply seeking a final act of continuity, a perverse form of closure to my long and tormented life. For the last plate, for the last slow thing I will do with my hands and teeth and time, I will ask for you, a final act of transgression that will define my legacy. My hunger remains insatiable even as I face my impending doom. I crave one last taste, one last moment of control
before the darkness consumes me entirely. The request was met with silence, a chilling void that echoed through the corridors of the prison. The guards exchanged uneasy glances, their faces pale with disbelief. My final meal had been granted, a testament to the depravity of my desires. The day arrived with a cold, gray dawn, casting a pall over the prison yard. The air was thick with anticipation, a sense of dread hanging heavy in the air. I was led to the execution chamber, my steps measured and deliberate. The execution chamber was sterile and cold, a monument to the efficiency of death. The gurney awaited me, its straps promising a final embrace. I was strapped down, my body trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The witnesses watched from behind a glass partition, their faces a mixture of curiosity and revulsion. I met their gaze, a flicker of defiance in my eyes. I would not give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. The warden read my final statement, his voice devoid of emotion. I listened intently, savoring each word, knowing that they would be the last words I would ever hear. The injection began, a cold, burning sensation spreading through my veins. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the darkness that awaited me. My last thought was of hunger, a craving that would never be satisfied. Darkness descended, a welcome embrace that extinguished the pain and suffering that had plagued me for so long. I was finally free, released from the prison of my own making. The silence that followed was absolute, a profound void that filled the execution chamber. The witnesses departed, their faces etched with horror. The guards cleaned the chamber, erasing the last vestige of my existence. My body was disposed of, my remains reduced to ashes. My legacy would live on, a testament to the darkness that lurks within the human heart. But even in death, my hunger persists, an insatiable craving that transcends the boundaries of mortality. I am forever bound to the darkness, a prisoner of my own desires. The world moves on, oblivious to the horrors that I have committed. The quiet children continue to play, unaware of the predator that lurks in the shadows. And so, the Chronicle of Silence continues, a haunting reminder of the insatiable hunger that consumes us all. But as long as we never forget the Chronicle, we learn to understand ourselves, the meaning of the silence that consumed us. The end.